Okay, so we're working on this, building and populating a city block assignment. I've got measurements here. The question that I just got was, does this include the streets? I think when they're giving us these measurements, they do. And so I think for the Chicago ones, I even looked it up, and there's like a 66-foot is the road between, right? So the width of the roads is like 66 feet. So that cuts into that. But what I'm going to do in Blender is, so I've got my starting guy, my Spidey cube. Let me turn this guy on. Here we go. So I'm just going to create a cube. And then here on the item, we're going to go with a 0.15 height either way. And so that's just going to be yay tall. Kind of a step up. So this is definitely the sidewalk. And then imagine the street out here. And then let's see, I think I was going to do a Denver. So I'm going to go like 100 by 150 instead of 200. So here's my block that I need to populate. And of course, there's Spider-Man down there. So next thing I'm going to do with this is I want your block there so I can see what you're filling up. So create this thing that is 0.15 meters high. And then I'm going to Control A, and I'm going to apply the scale. And I'm going to come in here and grab edges. Just hit this edge here. There we go, edge. So if I select one small edge here, and then I say select similar lengths, now I've got all 4 edges from around, and I'm going to Control B and bevel that just a bit. If I scroll my wheel while I'm beveling, I get more segments. I'll go up to like 6. And then let me look at my settings here. I think for the width, I'm going to go 0.5. I think that's what I need. Then I'll go back to like 6 segments. And so get something like that, right? So now maybe this helps to visually say, okay, this is the part you step up on. This is the part the cars should not go on, but taxis will, especially in San Francisco, because they're a bunch of psychopaths. The other thing I did with my other one, so I'm going to right click and shade auto smooth this. And I don't know that it matters, but I'm going to go and just 3 for faces. And I'm going to bevel this top just a little bit too, just for giggles. So if I hit the clamp overlap, then it won't go too far off. I'm going to go like just a tiny bit. This probably isn't as necessary, but a little bit of a rounded edge on top there. Bring Spidey down this way now. Let me turn my snaps on. The vertex. Snap to there-ish. Here we go. So that 0.5 meter radius was about right. Right. And so now we can imagine we got streets here. Fill this up. Make buildings, street signs. Is newspaper vending machines even a thing anymore? I guess it is in some bigger cities. I don't know. We still like killing trees. That's a thing we still do. Okay, cool. It was a paper iPad that you had to get updates for every day. Yeah. It was definitely a subscription service kind of deal, but you could opt out. You didn't have to buy it every day. So that's what we're filling up. So I'm going to leave him here. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to save as I've already created my whole folder structure, but you'll need to do that. So week 9, city blocks, exports, renders, scenes, etc. I saved the Chicago, so I'm going to call this the Denver blocks, since that's the size I use. And again, if it's helpful in visualizing, we can take our cube here, and he's scaled good. We save that. Let's call it block. And we can add an array modifier to this guy and start to kind of visually lay out what the rest of the street might look like. So I'm going to go ahead and generate an array. We looked at these a little bit when we were doing spaceships, but arrays are super cool. So I can up the count. And by default, it wants to do a relative offset. So like literally the X and then go to the other side of it and start again. What I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to do a constant offset. And then we can choose the amount. So this is 100 meters wide. So if I just say like 120, start the next one, and now we can start to see our grid layout for whatever size street we've got going on. Let me just cheat. Look. I've always got some of these open. So if the road is, so a 66-foot road, like we talked about Chicago has between their streets, is about 20 meters. So I added about 20 meters between these. So that kind of works. And then I can add another array to this. So I'll add another one. So generate array. And again, these are not necessary for what we're doing, but they help to visualize because we only need to fill up one of these. So array 2 here, let's say we go 3 on that. Instead of going relative, we'll go constant as well. And 0, we're going to go on the Y this time. It's 150, so 170. Yeah, there we go. So I've got 20-meter roads between. But again, this is what I'm trying to fill up and populate. Again, with Spidey here for scale. For this week, again, since we're going to try and make game-ready assets that we're going to use in future semesters even, make sure your scales are right. Bring in Spidey Cube, or was someone trying to make a different scale cube person with Alpha? Was that what you were doing with that? Yeah? Chroma Cube? Okay, yeah. Whatever your cube person is, bring them in for scale. Have some kind of converter up feet to meters, or have we talked about this? Right, so I've got them set to meters here, but this will auto convert. So if I just say 6 foot tall, but apparently that's 1.83 meters. I don't think Spidey's 6 foot, but while Blender wants to stay in meters, you can type in crazy stuff, right? So I can say he's 6 foot tall, plus he's got 3 feet for his boots, and then boom, it'll give me 9 feet. Like, it'll do math, it'll do conversions, it'll do all kinds of stuff in there. So you can do your conversions there. I'm going to go back to just my regular 1.8, or again use these here. I'm going to show you a couple of more things we can do with the with some of the array modifiers and mirror modifiers, and make a ridiculous building that maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So I'm going to go ahead and just add another cube, and we will make that on the Z. Your average height for a floor with all of the ceilings and floors between them is about 4.3 meters. Again, more dumb research that I've done because I like things to be scale. So that is 1 story high. Yeah, 4.3. So that's 1 story. So I'm going to just try and get this there. So he's much bigger than Spidey, and then we will I don't know. We'll make it bigger this way. So that's 43. I don't know. I just used it because I already had 4.3. So this is this big. And I'm going to do something here. So I can make and I can add this, and we're just going to go ahead. Let me scale this. So apply the scale. So I hit Control A, apply scale. And so this is 43. I don't like, that's a weird number. I'm going to do 50. So this fills up half of the width of my street. If I wanted an alley between, then maybe it'd be a little bit smaller or whatever. But I'm just kind of building this in place right now. So I've got this story of a building, and I could model in doors and windows and all kinds of fun stuff there. And then I've created a story, and I can use an array modifier to make it bigger. So we'll go up on the Z by 1 on the relative, and now we doubled in height. And now if I up the count, 3-story, 4-story, 5 stories. That makes sense. So I can just, again, kind of building modularly, like Alex was asking about. I can make one floor and just stack, and then go up and do something different up top. Another cool thing we can do. Yes, sir.
Or do you add, like, let's say stuff all divide on the first one and then translate it
So yeah, let's look at that. So I'm going to inset this guy, right? Whatever details I've got going on here, they start to show up. Yeah. Now later on, right? So if I'm done with this, but I want the top floor to be something different, then I could apply the array, and then they all become an object, and then I could make, I could do different things. Yeah, but great question. I'll show another ridiculous thing we can do with arrays. So I'm just going to turn this one off. Just get rid of that array. We've got this guy here, and I'm going to create a wonderful object that we don't even think about, and it's called, where's it at? Add, there we go, add. I'm going to add an empty. An empty is just a transform. It's just something in space. And we can make it look like whatever. So I'm just going to use plain axes. So I'm going to make an empty that's this. And I'm going to move him up on the Z. So I'm going to use him as an offset. So I'm going to move him up 4.3 from where he started. Oh, that's well, that's not what I meant to do yet. Up on the Z location, we'll go 4.3 because that's what we decided a story was. And then this is actually kind of where I wanted to be. So if I say I do 10 degrees on the Z, so this empty object, I rotated it by 10. Okay, but I'm going to use this as a reference for my next array. So I'm going to go back here. Empty's still there, so I'm going to re-add another array modifier. And instead of relative offset, I'm going to use an object offset. I need to pick the object. So I will pick the empty. Ah, okay. That's because my empty, something happened. We'll look at it in a minute. And then as I increase that, we get craziness. So each time I go up, I need to adjust the height to be right. Because my scale was off, I think, on my base object here on my cube. Yeah, the scale's weird, so I'm getting some scaling issues there that were unintended. But if I Control A and apply the scale, now we can see it's keeping that same height or the same scale and just moving up a bit. Why? I think it's based off of my origin versus the origin of the thing I got. So he's at 225, and the other thing is up to 3. So I'm just add to this. Copy that. Go to my empty, and I'm going to add these together. So I'll paste that in. So this will be plus the height I started with. Oh, and I hit Control what was it? 225. Back to the empty, please. Go plus, paste that in. There we go. So I needed that offset. So now they're a full story apart. It turns 10 degrees every time it goes up. And then on my empty, I can apply scales if I wanted to. So I can say, go down to 90% on the X each time, 90 on the Y, but we'll keep the height of the floor itself. So just wild things we can do with arrays, using another object as a reference. This will not work for any of the campus buildings that we need built, but just wanted you to see it's a weird thing we can do. I kind of like it. Oh, that's funny, because I'm moving the empty around. Okay, that's too much fun. All right. Again, the rest of this be very freeform. Make a skyscraper. I am usually not an original thinker, unfortunately. I don't know that I can design a skyscraper on my own, but I find reference images to be fantastic. I love to make things look like the thing I'm looking at. So I don't know, just look up a cool skyscraper from which part of Colorado are you from, Xander? There's no skyscrapers. That's right, because that's near Junction, right? Yeah. All right, so we'll go back to Denver. So we'll just look at a skyscraper from Denver. Right, find an image of some sort. What the heck is that? There's lots of fun designs. This has a little more going on than it looks like, but don't be too basic. But using arrays, like we can make cool buildings like this pretty easily. Which? It's not in that picture, but, yeah. Yeah, it is in like one of the in here? Oh, yeah. That's an interesting shape. Forgot about that one. Clock towers are fun. Yeah. Oh, that is a fun place. Is that Waterworld? I don't think Waterworld's next to Denver. Yeah. So which one is this? It might just. I don't know. Huh. Might be from Elitch's. Yeah, which I think got bought by Six Flags. I don't know. I think everyone gets more monopolies. Anyway, find cool buildings, get inspired by other buildings, make up something completely ridiculous, make it look like a cash register. But explore arrays, explore mirrors. If you want things to be mirrored on many sides, actually, let's go back here, right? So I'm just going to pretend that we like, and take my cube and my empty, and we'll just move them over. All right, we'll slide this way. We'll build another building over here on this block. Again, we covered this a little bit when we were talking about spaceships, but if I make a cube, and we're just going to go ahead and do 4.3 all the way around on that guy. The pivot point, we're going to leave where it's at, but I'm going to hit tab here and 3 to get all of my faces, and I'm just going to move my stuff in relation to the pivot point. So I'm just making it this cube over here. Let me see if I can look down. Oh, thanks, City Block. There we go. So I want this kind of on the line, which basically means I need them to be at 4.3 divided by 2 on each of those. 4.3 divided by 2. All right. So I've got this cube. And now if I add the mirror modifier to it, it's going to go over on the X, and I can also make it go over on the Y. Now when I edit this guy, right, then I'm making symmetry here. So I'll take this and just inset it, extrude, and I'll do basic stuff here. And then the same on this side. Ish. All right, and now with the mirror modifier on, I'm creating some kind of weird something as the mirror goes off of the pivot there. Then I can also add an array modifier on top of that, and instead go up on the Z by 1. And that might count. So again, mirrors and arrays, right? I've just got a simple cube here in the corner. It's very modular, but I can start to build stuff out. Make sense? All right. Please be creative, but also if you want, you can choose from this list here, or again, if there's something else around campus that is not an actual human being that you want to model that you think might be useful for us, pick some things. Ask me about it. We've got a lot of buildings, but we've got a lot we still need. If you want to make your own skyscraper, but decide that for your prop, you want to make a John Deere landscaping cart like we see around, or you want to make some kind of car that we can throw in the parking lots, then cool. We'll take whatever. Let me know. Hold on. About to sneeze all over my screen. Using somebody else's screen instead. All right. Let me know ahead of time if you're planning on taking something from this list, and I can help guide or direct you if you have questions about it, or if you decide even next Monday night when you're submitting it that I made a cool thing that I guess you could use. Just leave a comment when you submit it that I made this cool city block, but oh, by the way, if you want to use the bus that I have in the parking lot, let me know. Okay? Cool.